We live in a world of complex systems with many components and a high degree of connectivity between components. We can no longer explain our world in terms of simple, linear cause and effect principles. Instead, these complex systems demonstrate novel and unpredictable patterns emerging from interactions among the agents in the system. Today's organizations operate in a highly competitive, knowledge-fueled context composed of complex systems. They are characterized by conditions of uncertainty, ambiguity, interdependencies, and interrelatedness. This new landscape requires organizations to demonstrate rapid innovation and major flexibility in order to survive. Complexity leadership theory recognizes these circumstances and proposes a paradigm shift in how we approach leadership in organizations. Instead of viewing leadership as a process of one individual, often in a position of authority, asserting influence over others in the organization, CLT reframes it as an interactive dynamic among all members of the organization, in which their interactions generate new ideas that help the organization to solve problems and adapt to changes in the environment. In other words, CLT considers leadership a relational process rather than an individual practice. CLT suggests that leadership should be shared and distributed freely among organizational members, instead of one person at the top determining tasks and goals. Because the latter arrangement, hierarchy, and bureaucracy can stifle innovation, decrease flexibility, and prevent the flow of information around the organization. We live in a world of complex systems, but we also live in a world of hierarchy and bureaucracy. For many people in the organizational world, hierarchy is just a fact of life that they have to deal with. In today's environment, the vast majority of formal organizations are organized around bureaucratic principles, such as hierarchy, bound by rules, administrative, and departmentalized. Hierarchy and bureaucracy have been the dominant organizational paradigms in modern history. In the late 1800s, Max Weber created an organizational model for bureaucracy. This model included 6 elements: clearly defined division of labor and authority, hierarchical structure for offices, written guidelines prescribing performance criteria, recruitment to offices based on specialization and expertise, office holdings as a career vocation, and duties and authority attached to positions, not persons. Hierarchy and bureaucracy may also have important organizational advantages, like reducing transaction costs by structuring how interactions occur and how information is processed, by providing symbolic value to those inside and outside the organization, since hierarchy and bureaucracy are familiar and recognizable, and by managing uncertainty. How can we practice complexity leadership within the constructs of traditional hierarchy and bureaucracy? According to some theorists, complexity leadership and hierarchy and bureaucracy are not incompatible. Formal leaders in positions of authority can play important roles in optimizing the conditions of complexity leadership. Leaders in complex organizations catalyze the emergence of adaptive strategies. Dave Snowden, a Welsh academic, consultant, and researcher in the field of knowledge management, created the Cynefin Framework. The Cynefin Framework is a sense-making model which shows the 4 domains that an organization works within. These are chaotic, simple, complicated, and complex. A successful organization works within all 4 domains, but spends the most time in the complicated and complex domains. Depending on which domain you are in, You should think and analyze differently, rather than a one-size-fits-all, which has been the tradition of management theory. Too much time spent in the chaotic or simple domain will lead to the demise of an organization. Strategies to employ complexity leadership proposed in the literature. Stimulate collaboration among members and across teams or departments. An example is projects that require input from multiple sectors. Support diverse perspectives and experiences, such as hiring practices that seek out different points of view. Encourage experimentation and celebrate failure, like handing out monetary awards for members' innovations and debriefing after failures to highlight risk-taking and examine what was learned. Also identify the useful ideas generated by members and spread them around the organization, using tools such as newsletters highlighting members' contributions. Set up physical space and utilize technologies that promote clear, fast, and effective communication. Provide the time and resources for informal, self-organized interactions among members. Establish clear and simple guidelines that support the mission and values of the organization, but allows members to use their discretion in finding creative solutions. Create meaning for members by framing experiences in symbolic language that underscores the ultimate goal of the organization, utilizing storytelling and inspirational speeches. Example of a previous problem of practice. General Motors and Toyota combined to create the new United Motor Manufacturing Company. Toyota needed to get into the United States manufacturing game in order to remain competitive with other car manufacturers. GM needed to fix a notoriously bad manufacturing plant. Their Fremont, California plant was the worst of GM's plants. It was rifled with frequent strikes, a multitude of grievances, sabotage of their own product, and high absenteeism. Planning for this venture occurred well in advance of forming the new company. Edgar Schein from MIT was instrumental in NUMMI's development of corporate culture. Schein teaches that culture is hugely important, but also argues that you don't change culture by directly trying to change the culture. If you first change the way people behave, a change in the way they think will follow. A team approach was utilized. Teams included small groups on the production line that were cross-trained in each other's tasks. The team also included the plant as a whole, which was comprised of the employees, managers, engineers, and staff. The goal was for everyone to work together to improve production. Weekly, monthly, and quarterly meetings were all held between the stakeholders. Employees were given an opportunity to voice their concerns. When management delegated responsibilities to the people who did the work, this gave the workers a sense of pride in their job. Workers were able to suggest improvements for efficiency, safety, and quality. The focus shifted from who is the problem to what is the problem and how can it be solved. NUMMI operated under a porous hierarchy. The porous hierarchy departs from the previous and dominant version. That of modern organization is founded upon bureaucracy and hierarchical power. By allowing people at different levels of the organization to inform, while conforming to, the strategy process via learning and improvement. In this case, strategy is no longer about formulation at the top followed by execution at the base, but rather about creating conditions for local learning to improve execution and support further iterations. When the pursuit of quality based upon continuous improvement is key to the strategic positioning of the organization, then employees should be allowed to contribute and participate in the definition of the process on grounds beyond sheer obedience. Our current problem of practice. A transition of leadership has occurred with the replacement of the superintendent of a K-12 public school district. The Southwestern Pennsylvania School District is comprised of 5 diverse municipalities. The district is currently witnessing a slip in student performance due to the complacency demonstrated by the former superintendent. They are also struggling to adjust to confusion created by the change in leadership. Transfer of leadership role of superintendent has resulted in the following problems: decreased buy-in to new leadership and new ideas, decreased morale, and tension and conflict has become part of the new culture as members have communicated frustration and feeling out of the loop as the new systems have excluded them in major decision making. Change in culture, formal and informal structures. Transitioning from previous hierarchical structure, which includes leadership input from the teacher, is leaving the middle management, the curriculum directors, feeling out of the loop. Resistance to the change in culture in which the superintendent is communicating a new message, leadership style, and approach to management. This new vision for the district and management style has created a lack of support due to not obtaining buy-in nor addressing the problems this has created. Warranted actions. The new superintendent will make it a priority to establish a clear vision throughout the district. To improve cohesion, improve communication, and stop declining test score performance. He will communicate an open door policy, welcoming input and suggestions. The key improvements are cohesion, creativity, team building, and communication and information sharing. Plans will include 1. To create a formal leadership team comprised of 6 principals, 1 from each school, 6 academic directors, and 1 liaison from each school, a teacher or staff member. The leadership team will participate in bi-monthly sessions with the following goals: to create buy-in of the new leadership vision, to create cohesion throughout the district, and to relay information from teachers, staff, and parents back to the leadership team for discussion, which reinforces and welcomes feedback. 2. The district will create informal work groups and discussion groups within each of the 6 schools in the district, comprised of teachers and 1 member from the formal leadership team. The goals of these work groups are to discuss issues and improvements, to communicate and to work together to solve issues, and to reinforce the open door policy that welcomes input and suggestions. 3. Create an informal community group. The format will include biannual meetings in the school and an online presence. The goals are to create an online social media forum, to communicate a vision for the district, to foster cohesion and information sharing, and to provide parent resources and access to student resources. Change will occur through addressing organizational, pedagogical, social, and political factors at the same time. Create a school-centered approach of formal decision-making teams. All administrators will receive professional development around efficacy and research for better teaching. Create a daily schedule that allows for teacher collaboration, and create a parent advisory network to identify common educational issues and to provide support. Create a supportive system at the local, state, and national level. This helps to build in financial support in the district. Complexity leadership creates a system capacity for organizational change. As organizations face complexities such as new formal structures, changes in formal and perceived leaders, cultural changes, external threats, pressures, innovation, and interpersonal stresses, leadership extends beyond behavioral concepts perceived inadequate due to the ordered responses to complex issues to include an array of interacting organizational processes.